Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mings, and I'm just sitting around chilling at the lookout point in the Somniel, spending a warm summer night together with Gold Mary. There's a campfire burning behind us, the wind is rustling through the trees, and it's a very chill evening, and you know what? For an evening like this, I figured we'd have to sit down and read some hot takes, because, you know, when you're struggling for content and there's nothing to talk about in the Fire Emblem community, all you need to do is ask your viewers to give you their best hot takes, and suddenly you got content for days. So, ladies and gentlemen, in this video I'm going to be reading your hot takes, I'm going to be reacting to them, I'm going to tell you whether it's a W or an L take. We'll start with this one right here. Engage's character designs are actually pretty good and makes them memorable. L take. Occasionally they can be good. Example right here. I do like Gold Mary a lot. I think she has maybe one of the more memorable designs from Engage. There's some other good ones as well. I think Diamant looks pretty good. I like Jade. Ivy, maybe. You know, I think her dress is a little weird. I do like her Somniel dress though. However, I think you cannot say that they are good. You can say they're memorable, I'll agree with that. Good, I think you're stretching it. Engage designs are weird. They're clearly inspired by VTubers, because when Engage began its development, the VTuber craze was pretty... it was kind of crazy at the time. Like, I mean, maybe not. I mean, maybe it had already passed a little bit, but you guys remember the insane VTuber craze during the pandemic? Like, VTubers just exploded. VTubers are still very popular. So I kind of see why they tried to emulate that. But at the end of the day, it was a bit too much cultural whiplash to bring this into Fire Emblem, so don't really think that was a good idea at all. Alright. Let us move over to the next hot take, ladies and gentlemen. Casual mode saved the series, not waifus. So, casual mode was it first introduced in Awakening? I think it was. I think Awakening was the first game that brought that into the series. Before that, we didn't really have casual mode. I might be wrong, but I don't think so. I'm trying to think if Heroes of Light and Shadow had it. I don't think it did. I might be wrong on that, though. I think casual mode was pretty big for the series, because permadeath is something that scares the living hell out of new fans. I kind of get it. I do kind of get it. But I think what Awakening did that saved the franchise was that it was incredibly colorful and it was beautifully presented. I kind of want to make a video on this. Like, the presentation on Awakening is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Like, the main menu, the cinematic, the music, the character designs. Awakening was almost perfectly presented, I think. That's why it did so well. I'm not sure if it had anything to do with the features that it had necessarily, because I think Awakening is actually a pretty bad game. But it was a beautifully presented game, and it's a great game for beginners. But once you start kind of playing it a little bit, if you don't like the sandbox style Fire Emblem, then it becomes really annoying to play after a little while. But I think what saved the series was the beautiful presentation of Awakening, in my opinion. Not any specific mode from that game. There should be a golden route for Fire Emblem Three Houses. I mean, yeah. W take. I don't really think this is a hot take. I think it's just a good take, really. I mean, a route where you kind of unify the three lords, Dimitri, Claude, Edelgard, and you kind of, I don't know what you would do in this route. I guess you kill all the bad guys. I don't know if Rhea would live or die in this mode, but I think it's kind of a shame that you didn't have a last route where you got to use all the three lords together. I think people would have really liked that. But maybe one of the reasons why Three Houses is so popular is because you never quite get what you want in each route, and that causes people to be a lot more defensive of their lords. I'm not really sure. But they definitely should have had something like that for sure. It's okay to like the unpopular Fire Emblem games. Everyone has their own preference. Don't feel pressured into hating something you love. You can like a game despite its flaws. Yeah, it's another W take, I think. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a hot take. This is kind of a lukewarm take. I mean, yeah, you should just like whatever you like. You shouldn't care about what others think. I mean, this doesn't just apply to Fire Emblem, it applies to pretty much anything in life, I guess. Yeah, do whatever you want, man. Like, people dunk on FE6 all the time. My wife makes fun of FE6, okay, and I married her. I don't care what people say about FE6, I still love it. I know it's a flawed, broken game. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to a first-timer or to someone who's relatively new to the series. But I think the people who like FE6, they recognize what makes it good, I think. And I do think that once you reach a certain level of Fire Emblem, you will actually start to appreciate the aspects of FE6 a lot more. It's still a broken and flawed game, though. So, yeah, absolutely. Micaiah's a great unit, and if you disagree, it's 100% a skill issue and a lack of knowledge of what she can do in Radiant Dawn. Ooh. Oh, man. Yeah, Axum's been on, he's been on a bit of a Micaiah train lately, talking about how she's amazing. I think his idea was that you put Resolve on her and she becomes pretty decent in combat. So Micaiah is an interesting unit, I'll give her that. She has an ability to heal and restore status at the cost of her HP, which gives her experience, which is a easy way to level her up in the early game. She can essentially create her own experience, which is kind of nice. And I will admit that, like, yeah, if you give her Resolve, she can basically put herself into Resolve range, which is kind of nice. It's just annoying. I just find her annoying because, like, one hit and she's dead in most cases on hard mode, and also, not to mention, she gets doubled a lot, so she's the painful combination between frail and slow, which you never want to be. But, I don't know, man. Great unit. I can maybe, like, I can agree on the fact that she can be a somewhat half-decent unit, maybe. But I don't think she's a great unit. I mean, I think you're snuffing coping here. Exum, I'm sorry. This is going to be an L take from me, brother. But, you know, better lucks next time. Divine Pulse is a great feature. L take. Look, I don't mind it being there, but there should be an option not to use it. Like, there should be a mode that you can play on. Maybe like the hardest difficulty mode where you can't use it. Oh, if you don't like it, don't use it. Yeah, I know that, but I'm tired of nerfing myself by not using game mechanics that the game may have been designed around using. Engage and, well, more so Three Houses. Three Houses is definitely designed around Divine Pulse because of the ambush spawns on Maddening and whatnot. I'd say Engage is probably less so designed around Divine Pulse. You can definitely play through it. I mean, I have ironmanned it on the hardest difficulty without Divine Pulse. It's definitely possible if you know the game well enough. But I think it has been a net loss for Fire Emblem as a whole. This feature is very lazy. It allows developers to design, like, it allows them to not playtest their maps because they know that the player can just ram their heads into it. I also think it's very strange that the Divine Pulse has like 10 uses. It feels like the worst of both worlds. Either you limit it greatly, you give it like 1 or 2 on hard mode, or you just make it unlimited. I don't understand why we have to do this middle ground between 10, like between like just a few uses and like infinite uses. 10 just feels terrible because if you have to use Divine Pulse 10 times, you're probably struggling to the point where 10 times is not enough. So it's probably better to just give unlimited at that point. But on like the hardest difficulty, 10 uses feels way too generous. I think if they limited it to just like 1 or 2, I think it would be a lot better in my opinion. Because 1 or 2 mess ups per chapter, that's fair on the hardest difficulty. But anything above that, I really don't like. So yeah, sorry, that's an L from me. But you know, check your Divine Pulse at the door, I guess. Having low deployment slot doesn't make a chapter difficult, it just makes it more tedious to plan the units you keep and who to bench. So I don't know if this like answers your questions or not, or like answer your statement, but let me just say this. It is an absolute pain to design high deployment chapters in Fire Emblem, so I'm sure you guys remember chapter 7 of Rebellion Saga. If you played that, that's the Shrine chapter. So that was originally like a 14 deployment slot chapter, I think, 14 or 15. And it was impossible to plan. It was either way too hard for our testers or it was way too easy. Like, the higher the deployment slot goes, the bigger the skill ceiling becomes. Because if you only have like 5 units to move around, then you can pretty much predict the power level of the player. You know, like, the difference between a good and a bad player when you have 5 units to control is very small. But the difference between a good and a bad player when you have 15 units to control is massive. A good player would utilize all of those 15 units to their utmost maximum, whereas a new player will kind of just move them around awkwardly. So one of the reasons why we had to cut the deployment slots down to like, I think it ended up being 11 or 12, is because it was just impossible to balance. People would either just ram their head into the chapter and die, or they would just completely breeze through it. So sometimes you need lower deployment slots to balance a chapter. I don't know if the developers of Fire Emblem ever ran into this problem. They probably did. But just trust me when I say this. It is very rough to balance high deployment slot maps. It's insanely difficult. So, but yeah, I don't know. Medium take, I don't really have a big opinion one way or the other. Berkut deserved that throne, and the art of Valencia is beautiful. And the art of Valencia is beautiful. That's definitely a W take. I don't know if it's a hot take though. I don't know, man. Alm's kind of the chosen one, so it's kind of hard to argue that anyone would make a better emperor than him. I mean, he is kind of the Gary Stew of Gaiden, right? Like he's the chosen one. He's kind, he's compassionate, he's strong. Kind of hard for Berkut to compete against that. I think Berkut probably would have been an okay king, maybe. I don't know. He's kind of arrogant though, so maybe not. We're gonna go with L take on this one. W take on the art though. Giving enemies personal skills or class skills enhance gameplay experience, each combat becomes slightly more unique. The few maps with 3 sides all fighting, e.g. Gronder Field and Tree Houses, is a good mechanic and should be implemented in the future. Fits certain narratives. W take on the last one. I think it's an L take on the first one. I don't think giving bosses personal skills, sure, but giving generics personal skills, Conquest did that way too much and I kind of hated it. Like in the late game of Conquest, you run into ninjas with like 4 or 5 personal skills. It's just a mess. Like oh my god, and then they start putting lunge and inevitable end and grisly wound on everything. It's ugh. I don't like too many personal skills on enemies, man. On bosses, sure, you can give them 1, but... And I think it's kind of sad that the bosses of Engage usually don't have personal skills. I don't even think the 4 Hounds had personal skills, did they? I'm actually not sure. I don't think they did. At least not the recruitable one, or the non-recruitable ones. Now, the bottom take? Sure. 3-way battles can be fun, for sure. But you need some kind of reward for actually wanting to participate, though. Otherwise, you just become a spectator. But Trios did that pretty well, I think. So that actually worked out pretty well. Most of the people in here don't know what a hot take is. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I probably should have started off the video explaining, like, what is a hot take. So, a hot take is kind of like something that you... It's an unpopular opinion that is actually a good opinion. At least that's how I see it. I might be wrong on that, but like a hot take is... It's a controversial opinion, basically, that you think is really good. So, yeah, maybe I should have explained that before I actually asked you guys for hot takes. The X-Pro dual archetype need to return. After FE7, we haven't seen it since it's only been one singular X-Pro after that, like Arthur Bush and X-Pros. When executed right, are solid early game design units. W take from Davis G right here. This has something to do with the fact that the roster has shrunk down greatly in modern Fire Emblem, and we don't get paired units anymore. We get paired units in the form of like retainers, but we don't get paired classes anymore. The reason being is when you have fewer units, you want all of the units to have separate classes. Gone are the days of the game just giving you 2 Cavaliers and a Paladin in one group, similar to what FE6 did. You know, not only did it didn't just do it once, it did it twice. I mean, you get Marcus, Alan, and Lance in Chapter 1, and then in Chapter 7 you get Stella, Noah, and Trek. So, old school Fire Emblem was a lot more lenient on just giving you multiple classes of the same kind, like Board, Cord, and Barst, for example, from the first Fire Emblem game. Because the rosters were like 50 plus people, so they had to do some duplicate classes, and honestly, I really like the duo of 2 similar units joining at the same chapter. I think it's cool, especially if you make like one of them like really aggressive and the other one really defensive, then they kind of complement each other. But you don't have to do that either. You can just kind of give them different traits. They can even be somewhat similar, I think, like Alan and Lance, and it'll still be nice. Like, I miss that. I really think we should go back to that. And it allows for some really cool dynamic between said unit, aside from just like making them retainers. So yeah, definitely a W take from Davis Tree right here. I agree wholeheartedly. Fire Emblem was a game designed to attract the kind of people who hoard items in-game and then make their lives miserable with limited experience, permadeath, and item degradation. Yeah, so it's interesting, right? I think there are probably 2 kinds of major Fire Emblem players. You have the completionists, the hoarders. They are like the people who just want to max out everything. They reset if they lose a single unit. They want the perfect ending. They want to keep everyone alive. And then you have the people who don't care about Fire Emblem. I'm in that camp. I don't care if people die, I just play. I just roll with whatever happens. I think that everyone probably starts out in the first camp. I think it's very normal for people to start in that camp. And then I think maybe if you allow yourself to, you can end up in the second camp with experience. And I've said this several times, you enjoy Fire Emblem so much more if you stop caring about it. I know it's a bit of a meme at this point, like stop caring about Fire Emblem, but I really mean it. Seriously, if you can detach yourself from that mindset, you will enjoy Fire Emblem better. And Shozo Kaga, the father of Fire Emblem, actually had an interview where he said this is how you're supposed to play the game. And I'm not like a Kaga fanboy. I'm not like one of those guys who are like, oh, Kaga, everything he does, like he shits gold. But I think actually had a very good point about Fire Emblem. Like, you enjoy it a lot more when you let your units die and you keep playing and you enjoy your failures. That's how you actually enjoy it. But of course, yeah, he completely misread the kind of people that do get into this game. The completionists, the perfectionists, you know, people who just want to do everything right. So, but yeah, no. W take, I think. All right. I really love Fate's weapon triangle, which included tomes, bows, and shurikens. I'm undecided on this one. I think I'm gonna say L take. I do enjoy Fate's weapon triangle when I get to use it properly. I'm really bad at it, so I'm gonna have a little bit of plugin that I pull up every time. I know I'm not like most people. I cannot memorize that triangle for the love of me. I think it's too complicated and it's not intuitive. Like the classic triangle of Fire Emblem actually is very easy to understand. And it's very easy to remember, but the Fates Triangle is a little bit more clunky. Like, why is... I don't know, man. Why is Lances effective against magic? Like, I can't explain that logically, but I can explain why Spares would beat a sword. You know, even the Anima weapon triangle kind of makes sense a little bit. Like, wind is weak against fire, because if you throw wind at fire, you make the fire stronger. I have no idea why Thunder's good against fire, though. No idea. So, you know, it's not perfect, I guess. Many takes in the community about what characters are good or bad are just Chinese whispers all the way back from LTC debate days and don't actually have any relevance to how 90% of normal players play the game. I'm gonna have to say W take from Speedwing right here. It's he's not wrong about that. Fire Emblem discussion has existed way before YouTube, forums and message boards and, you know, GameFAQ guides, you know, those GameFAQ moderators, they never learn. It's you gotta... It's interesting, like, when people discuss units, first of all, most people are incredibly biased when they discuss units. It's very hard for people to be objective, you know. You have the people who will say that Mia's the best unit of Path of Radiance because they gave all their stat boosters to her. And then you also have the people who say that movement is the only stat that matters. You know, you have the elitists, the LTCers, who will say that Shauna's the best unit in FE6 because she flies. And this is true if you're setting up 4-turn clears and you have 2 months to plan out every chapter. For a casual player, they're not really going to be able to utilize Shauna at all. For a casual player, a unit like, I don't know, Percival, Ogier, Milady, they might be a lot better for them. Someone who's safe, someone who reliably level ups defense and avoid and can take a few hits. Basically units that are a bit like idiot-proof. So, but yeah, no, like, you got to be careful when you listen to what other people say online, because chances are they're designing a completely different, or they're discussing a completely different game mode than what you are playing. You need to like, this is why I don't like tier lists, because you need to specify what you're making a tier list for. Like, oh, it's just a tier list for what? The tier list that you did for your draft race? Well, most people don't draft race. So it's not about clearing the game quickly. People need to be a lot more clear about what they're saying when they're discussing unit viability, I think. So, but yes, W take from Speedwing right here. Lyn is a good unit, which carried Egg's Ironman run, and in the end, I want to say L take here, but I guess this is a proper hot take, isn't it? It's controversial. So I will give Lyn one thing. When you're doing an FE7 Ironman on Hector hard mode, the dragon can really screw you over, because you see there is a small chance for the dragon to one-shot Athos. And if you have a bad Hector, which I think I did, and you have a bad Eliwood, which I also think I did, then you might not have units capable of fighting the dragon. Because normal units with the S-rank weapons, they deal like 5 to 10 damage to it, maybe, and that's if they're really well trained. When you're going up against the dragon in FE7 on Hector Hard mode, usually you kill it with Athos, but if Athos gets one shot by the Flame Tongue, which there is a small chance that he does, then he just dies. And that happened. That exact thing happened to me on my Ironman. Athos died. Eliwood and Hector were poorly trained. I think Eliwood got doubled. So I actually had no one left who could beat the dragon except for Lynn. Lynn will double the dragon with her Soul Cuddy. She'll deal decent damage to it because the Soul Cuddy does actually have the might of a silver sword. So when tripled, it can actually break through the dragon. So I will say this, if you need to kill the dragon, Lynn might be one of the better units for that if your Hector and Eliwood didn't level up well. And yeah, she did save my run, so it's not really an L-Tech. He's right. Lynn saved my run. I don't think she's a good unit, though. Like, I'm sorry. Lynn is so trash, man. Oh my god, she's so trash. She's like a Myrmidon that gets one shot by everything. It's so annoying. The reclassing system removes the personality of a character and makes them less unique. W. I hate free reclassing. I think you should limit it a lot. It's fun to play around with on multiple playthroughs, but I really wish they'd limit it more. I think Fates struck a good balance. Fire Emblem Awakening's little sparkles for experience, support, or item was the best mechanic, like a little gotcha every time you stepped on it. Yeah, no, they were good. I wish they were a bit more intuitive, though. Like, it was kind of weird. So sometimes you step on it, and it's like you don't really understand what's going on. I also wish you could kind of select the reward. That'd be nice. But yeah, sure. Yeah, W take. I did like those. They should bring those back. Enemy AI passing around the vulneraries is a fantastic idea and should be implemented in more games. It probably works for any game that isn't Path of Radiance, because Path of Radiance is already so slow, and with that mechanic, it becomes even slower. So, like, I'd say probably L-Take. I don't know. I don't like it when enemies heal, man. Alright. Secret Stones did promotions the best in the series, being able to freely reclass to whatever you want, removes characters' identities, and having the choice between 2, ideally 3, on the single promotion available to a character gives enough replay value and strategic weight without making them feel generic. Yeah, I mean, this is a W take, I think. It's not really a hot take. I think everyone agrees that Secret Stones promotions are really good. Yeah, no, the ability to like pick 2 or 3 choices is pretty great. Yeah. All right. Those were the top voted hot takes and some that I just found randomly. There's no stream this weekend, as you might know, because I'm at the cabin, but I figured you guys would enjoy some hot takes. Well, thanks for joining me, guys. I'll see you guys very soon. Take care, guys. Bye-bye. That's not what I meant to